Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Matt DeLockery. Well, we're here. We're at the end of the letter to the Colossians. Now, there's a few more verses after this, but this mostly Paul's greetings to people, and we're not going to cover that in an episode. But this is the end of the body of the letter, the end of the content part of it. So we're coming to the last lesson. We're here. So what does Paul say? How does he end his content portion of the letter? Let me read it to you. He says, "Continue steadfastly in prayer, being watchful in it with thanksgiving. At the same time, pray also for us, that God may open to us a door for the word to declare the mystery of Christ, on account of which I am in prison, that I may make it clear which is how I ought to speak. Walk in wisdom toward outsiders, making the best use of the time. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer each person." Now, there's nothing really earth-shattering in here. And, as you're closing a letter, or, if you're closing an email or a talk or a presentation or anything like that, you're not really going to bring up anything new, right? You're going to review some of the things that you've said briefly, and then you're going to talk about maybe the potential impact or the action items or where do you go from here. So what you find here is a continue in prayer, be thankful. The themes of prayer started out at the beginning. The theme of thankfulness has shown up multiple times, and that's about that is the motivation for why we do what we do as Christians. We're thankful for what God has done for us through Christ. Therefore, we act differently as a result. And that's what thankfulness in this letter is all about, and I think in general. Then you get most of this is about being able to reach people on the outside. Prayer to reach outsiders, walk in wisdom, let your speech be gracious, seasoned with salt, all of these things. This is how to reach outsiders. And I think this is significant, not so much in what he says, because all of that's sort of like, walk wisely, and do and act and live wisely towards people who are on the outside. It's like, I could have come up with that one on my own, Paul. Like, I didn't really need your help on that one. Be wise. Got it. I don't always do it, but I know that I'm supposed to. Yeah. Be gracious in your speech. Yeah, I got that too. Again, don't always do it, but I know I'm supposed to. So there's not really anything new here. I think the significance in this passage is not so much what it says, but where it occurs. You have this bit about the outsiders at the very last part of the letter, at the end of the body of the letter, at the end of the things that Paul is trying to say. He spent 3 full chapters explaining all of the things that he needed to explain. And then you get this bit about outsiders, people who aren't part of your group. So it's almost like a really long explanation of, or an example of, get your own act together first before you go start telling other people how to get theirs together, right? It's the whole, remove the log out of your own eye before you try to remove the speck from your neighbor's eye, because you need to be able to see clearly before you can take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. Seems like somebody else said that. Jesus. So that's basically what you're seeing here. It's like, yes, the goal is to go out and to make the world a better place and help the other people in it. We talked about that in chapter 3, verses 1 through 4, the beginning of this most recent series we've been doing. The goal is to make the world a better place, but you have to be someone who is capable of making the world a better place first, which means you have to get your own act together. And that's not an easy lesson to give because, as I'm sitting here saying that, I'm realizing, I don't have all my act together. Well, I still have to explain that to you. So I do wrong things, but I still have to tell you, you have to get your own act together first before you go telling somebody else how to get things together. See, the thing is, nobody's perfect, and we all make mistakes, and we all mess up. And the only way that we're going to be able to help other people is not by waiting until we're 100% perfect, but by doing the absolute best we can to be the best people we can. And then as we've moved further down the road, then we can help people who aren't quite so far down the road. Because there's sort of like this balance game that you have to play. You can't help somebody when you haven't figured out the thing yourself. So, I mean, that's wrong, because that's just plain hypocritical. Like, if you say, I have a problem managing money, and like, I can't manage my own money. Now let me teach somebody else how to do it. Well, no, you haven't figured it out yourself. But then, there's the other hand, like, I can't wait till I'm perfect with this, because nobody will ever be perfect at anything in this life. Ever. It doesn't matter what the thing is. No one will ever be perfect at anything. So you've got these sort of two ends of the spectrum, and then somewhere in between being hypocritical and thinking like you're helping people and actually making it worse, and never helping anybody because you never feel like you're good enough. Somewhere in between, you have to do something. Otherwise, nobody's going to help anybody, and that's not a very good option. So that's a wisdom thing. That is how do you know when you're far enough along that you can actually make a positive difference in somebody? And that's something that I think we all need to wrestle with a little bit in our own lives. Because if we're not where we need to be able to help somebody, well, then we need to get there. And if we are, then we need to start looking around and figuring out what we can do. But the main point of this passage is not so much that. It's where it occurs in the letter. This is chapter 4, verses 2 through 6. We've had 3 full chapters of all the other stuff first, that, who Jesus is and what he has done and why all of that matters. And then we've had, what about our relationship to Christ? How does that change who we are and what we do? And why is this the right path that we should follow? And then after that, we've had, this is how to live in light of all this theological stuff that we've talked about. Here's how theology and praxis, the way you live and act in the world, the practice of things. Here's how praxis flows from theology. There's these theological things. This is the way the world is shaped. And because the world is shaped this way, therefore, this is how you should act in it. Once we've had all of that, and we've learned this is the right way to go through life. We've had some practice doing this, and we've started and hopefully made some progress at being a better human ourselves. Then we can do what comes in this very last section: walk in wisdom towards outsiders. And until we do all those other things first, until we get our own act together, until we remove the log from our own eye, we're not in a position to where we can help others. And you don't want to wait forever, because then you're never going to help anybody, but you don't want to move too soon. So you need to have some good counsel. You need to have people around you that can help you figure out when and where and how you should move. But you should move. It shouldn't just be this Christian thing that you do, and this is what you do, once a week, or, you go to church once a week, or maybe you say a prayer at dinner, and that's the end of it. No, you're supposed to make a difference in the world. When and how and where are really complicated questions. And that's something that's going to involve people who are engaged in your life to be able to answer. You're not going to be able to do that just by reading a book. So this last section of the letter is outward, and it involves you trying to work out these ideas in your life. And that's where the Christian life should take you. Figuring out how to make a difference in the world, and figuring out how you are uniquely suited to do that. Like, each of us is different. How can you make a difference in the world best? It's not an easy question to answer, and it's going to take some trial and error. So it's a process, or to use a language from this letter, very Hebrew language, it's a walk. It's a journey, and it's something that you don't complete in a single day. It's a path that you move down for the entirety of your life. So here we are at the end of the letter to the Colossians. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope you've learned a little bit about how to do some Bible study. I hope you've understood more about what the Christian worldview is all about. If you're interested in going deeper, I wrote this. This takes you in depth through Colossians, and it tries to figure out why Paul thought the way he did, and answer the question: if he wrote Mere Christianity, what would be in it? So this book is the proof. The one that's going to come out after this, and not too much longer, is going to be the explanation. So this is the proof. The one after this is the explanation. If you're interested, there will be a link to this one in the description. The second one's not out yet, so I don't have a link. I'll post that places afterwards. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope it has made a difference and explained a little bit more about what Christianity is like. Best of luck in your own walk.